Hello everyone and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics video on the channel. It is Thursday and it's time for some captains ahead of round 10. So this is going to get up a tiny bit later than normal. I'd like to premiere it at 5, but it is going up at 6 because I had to change my order, had to re-record it. Obviously hearing a couple of things about some players and stuff, I thought I'd adjust it and I thought I'd get you the most up-to-date list. So let's go through my top 10 for round 10. But last week, captains, we were pretty good. Top 5, all went over a ton except for Nick Dacos, who was at number 2. But I think we had Bont in there at number 1. We had some other guys that went pretty well, but not too bad. But hopefully we'll get you some more good captains for this week. So coming in at number 1, this was one of the adjustments I did make. So Tristan Cherry is at number 1. He was at number 2 in my original list. But here in the rooms of Sheasel, playing a bit more mid-forward, I think when Cherry and Sheasel were so close together, I thought, well, I'll back in Big X. He scored a 150 against Richmond last year, and Richmond is still a pretty good matchup for Rucks, as we know. Obviously, Nank gives up points, but also scores points. So I think the Big X is in for a big one, and he is my number 1. And then Harry Sheasel was at number 2. So just an adjustment. 1 and 2 have just flipped. Sheasel is now at number 2. So Drew Jones, obviously shout out to him, obviously Goat Fantasy, saying that North Train today, Shees was training with the mids and the forwards again. So you sort of wonder, is maybe Fisher coming back in? And I think there was rumours of maybe Simpkin maybe missing. Were they doing that just in case he misses? Sort of, I think Sheasel, regardless still, even in whatever role he plays, this is a great matchup. I think he's still got to be in the top 2 because even if it is a mid-forward role, Richmond are the number 1 matchup by far for midfielders. And as a forward, they are, I believe, the third best matchup, for forwards there. So regardless, whatever role it is, I think he will be in for a good day. 100 and 129 against Richmond his last 2 for Sheasel. I think he's going to go really well anyway, regardless of role. If I knew he was playing in defence, he would probably be my number 1. But the fact he might not be, I've just bumped Big X to number 1. Coming in at number 3, I've got Rowan Marshall. So it comes up against West Coast, who are by far the easiest matchup for Rucks this season. His last 4 against West Coast, 118, 96, 130, and 108. That 96 as well had 6 frees against, and that was a low-scoring fantasy game. So that obviously could have been big. But I think the big thing for Marshall is his last 3 games are quite impressive and sort of signifying that he's starting to find a little bit of form. So his last 3, 107, 91, 116 against Brisbane, Freo and Carlton. So not easy matchups, particularly Brisbane, but it's his game time. So it's been 86, 87, and 89% in the last 3. And before that, it was, you had like 82, 78. There was an 86 there, but then some just lower 80s there. So his game time's taking a little bit more of an uptick. He's even kicked 4 behinds in his last 2 games, no goals. So those 2 scores could have been bigger as well. I think he's starting to hit some form, and maybe a ceiling score could be on its way against West Coast. So he is my number 3 for the week. Coming in at number 4, I've got Josh Dunkley. So he's down here, so a little bit lower, but Josh Dunkley's my number 4. Melbourne, really good matchup there for him. I think he can go quite well. So mids against Melbourne this year, they're in the top half. So they are I believe that's the 6th best matchup for mids this season. And I think Josh Dunkley can take advantage of that. And Josh Dunkley's career average against Melbourne, 120.9 in 8 games against them. It's just absolutely absurd average against them. Last year against them, 158 and 123. So obviously 2 big scores against them. I think Dunkley can get it done once again, and he is my number 4. And the guy at number 5, he wasn't actually in my original top 10, but looking at it more, I thought, well, I've got to put him in there. It's Tim English. Tim English rounds out my top 5 this week. Come up against Essendon. Tim English, 68 and 98 against Essendon in his last 2. But I don't think you can read much into it. That was against Draper and Bryan or a Goldstein. But up against just Goldstein, Essendon are now the 3rd easiest matchup now for Rucks. So they've really sort of taken a turn to be one of the better matchups for Rucks. And if we take a bit of a look at what Rucks have scored against Goldie in the last few weeks, there's been some good scores. So like last week, Brody Grundy, 115, and that's been from a Brody Grundy that's been pretty poor this year. Then you go to the week before against Big X. Big X scored a 121. And was the 2nd highest scorer for the game. And then you look at the week before, Darcy Cameron scored a 103 in the wet. And that game, there wasn't huge numbers. I think Dacos was the top scorer at 120. So I think, Todd Goldstein's clearly a better matchup than what he was. And Essendon are a better matchup. So I think Tim English, who's been in some good form himself. So he obviously had that 145 a couple of weeks ago. Scored a 92, but that was against Jared Witts last week. That's a pretty solid score against Wits, who's a really tough matchup. But 145 and a 124 before that against Port, and then GWS, and then even 100 against St Kilda before that. So he's been really consistent, getting some good scores, and I think this is a game, if he's going to put up a ceiling score, it could be this one. So a bit of a flavour of the rucks here this week in the top 5, but that is my top 5. Let's go 6 through 10. So at number 6, I've got Locky Whitfield against Freo. He's the second highest averaging player for the season behind Bailey Smith. Last 4 against Freo, 115, 90, 70, and 96. So not great, but I think he can still get it done. Just didn't quite make my top 5. Freo, again, a solid matchup for defenders. So they're sort of middle of the pack. But I think Whitfield, regardless, can get it done. Does someone pay him attention? I think they're probably more likely to pay Finn Callaghan any attention at the moment, the way he's playing. So I think Whitfield will be fine, and he'll go and get another good score. Number 7, I've got Dawson, who originally was number 5, bumped it down a couple of slots, just adjusting the list a little bit. Against Collingwood, just hearing that it's going to be a little bit wet, so I don't know if a huge amount of those marks are going to be there, but those tackles will probably be there. So 117, 172, 112, his last 3 scores against Collingwood. That 172 as well was come at the MCG, not long with that 117. So some big scores at the MCG for Dawson, his last couple. He was up against, I believe, Essendon earlier in the year, and if I'm not mistaken, he went 134 against Essendon. So good record at the MCG. I think he gets it done again. Just bumped down a couple of slots just with the wet weather. Those just not as many marks will be there, but I think the tackles instead will be there to make up for those missed marks if it is going to be wet. Zach Merritt comes in at number 8 against the Dogs. So Dogs haven't been super easy for mids this year, sort of bottom half for matchups, but I think Merritt can't see him getting any attention here. I think he's a really good VC option on the Saturday night, along with a few other guys, because a lot of these guys here, like you got Cherry's on the Sunday, Sheasel's on the Sunday, Marshall on the Sunday, Dunkley on the Sunday, English is on the Saturday night. So a lot of the guys are actually going to be VC in the bottom half here. So I think Merritt is a guy that you can VC along with like a Dawson, Whitfield, English, guys like that. But Merritt against the Dogs, I think can get it done. Does Matt Kenny maybe spend some stoppage time on him? Maybe. I think Merritt still gets it done regardless. So he's at number 8. Bailey Smith at number 9. I originally didn't have him in the top 10, but I thought I just can't leave him out of my top 10. He's the highest averaging player this season, 118.9. I've just got him down the list, obviously, because Port Adelaide, at Adelaide Oval, and does he get some attention from a Bergman or a Willem Drew? That's my only concern. That's why he's down the list. But I thought, I've got to have him in there just because he's the highest averaging player, right? And if he doesn't get tagged, he's going to get it done. So he's at number 9. And number 10, I've got Nasiah Wanganeen Millera against West Coast at Optus. And he wasn't actually one I had in the top 10 either originally. But adjusting it, obviously, I'd make a top 10 and then I'd just go through who can... is this the list I want? And I think I need Nasiah in there against West Coast. They're not normally as good for defenders at Optus. I just think this is a game that will suit Nasiah over at Optus Stadium, wide open ground. And I think he's a pretty good captain option in that final game if you didn't have a Marshall and you want to go a VC on one of the top 2 guys, because Nasiah Wanganeen Millera this season has been very consistent. Only 2 scores below a ton. That was a 91 against Port when he was on about 60 at half time, but obviously Port at Adelaide Oval was a tough matchup. And then 86 against the Dogs when they got absolutely belted there, and his role did shift around a bit that game. I think St Kilda win this game, and I think that Nasiah Wanganeen Millera is going to be a big part of that. So he is my number 10 option for the week. Moving to some guys that were unlucky and some guys I didn't like this week. So Max Gawn was unlucky to miss out against Brisbane. Big O, tough matchup up at the Gabba, but apparently Big O's been dealing with some soreness, so I guess we'll see what that looks like. But Gawn could be a solid option. I guess he's just in and around the guys like the Cherry, Sheasel, Marshall that have got better matchups this week. So I think they're better for this week. But Gawn could be a solid captain option if you go a VC on someone and you look at them at 3/4 time. Like you could go VC into a Cherry or Sheasel and go, they're not doing it for 3/4, and then go captain on Gawn if you want to do that. So Gawn, unlucky to miss out. Bont missed out. I don't mind the matchup against Essendon, but I think Will Setterfield will go to him. So that's the reason that he's been left out of the top 10, but I still think he can have an okay day. Dane Zorko against Melbourne at the Gabba is a good matchup. He was probably, arguably could have been number 11 if in the top 10. I just think, Melbourne at the Gabba is a good matchup. I just worry that his last 2 weeks, he's saved his score 2 weeks ago to get to the ton, and then he saved the score, well, not saved the score, but he went from being a solid score to a big score from a big last quarter. Again, that probably means he's going to do it again, right? So probably unlucky not to be there, but I guess I like the guys that can be consistent over 4 quarters, and Zorko, last 2 weeks, hasn't quite been that, Hasn't been the same Zorka we saw last year, but he's still getting it done. So I don't mind him as a captain or VC, but just didn't make the top 10 because of that. Nick Dacos missed the top 10. Probably someone that could have been in the top 10, but I think the Crows will pay some sort of attention to him, whether it's a Peatling, whether it's a Ben Keys. I think Neil Bullen could actually do the job. He did it for Melbourne last year and did a pretty good job in that. So I hope that he does better than being outside the top 10. He's a good VC option because a lot of people are going to use a VC on the Saturday, going to someone on the Sunday. So Nick Dacos just missing out. Wet weather as well is another factor there, but I'm hoping he gets it done regardless. Jack McRae against West Coast, solid option there. He's the sort of guy that could really sort of take advantage of these softer matchups. The only reason I just don't have him in there is because besides that 139 that he scored against Freo when he had that massive 66-point last quarter, his form outside that 84, 59, 83, 95, and a 75, and that 139 was before the 75. So not really getting it done. So that's the reason he misses out, just from inconsistency of form. But I think he can still crack the ton this week and go well. Connor Rosey, probably another unlucky one to miss out, but I just think Geelong will pay some attention to him. He's been so good in this halfback role in the 5 weeks he's had it. So he's gone 4 tons of 5, 126, 101, 108, 87, 122 in the halfback role. I just think a Brad Close or someone's going to probably stand next to him for the day. So that's why he's not in the top 10 this week, but he's a VC shout, not a bad option there. Butters, not for me this week. I think Ocean Mullen will tag him. It could be Atkins, but I actually think Mullen will go to him. Did the job on Nick Dacos a couple of weeks ago, and Butters, sort of similar type player. I think Mullen will do the job there. So Butters, not for me this week. Jordan Dawson, obviously mentioned him. Mentioned obviously English and Merritt. Liver, could take a punt on him as a VC with no Treloar, but I think there are better options this week. Tom Green, one that was just outside the top 10 against Freo. I think he could be pretty good, and you could chuck the VC on him as well. I think he's not a bad shout there. Cripps, not for me against Sydney. Could cop some attention there, maybe a Rowbottom or even a Jordan if he doesn't go to Walsh. Andrew Brayshaw against Giants, tough matchup at Angie Stadium. Probably not for me this week. Again, is a VC option if you want to go there to be a bit different, because this could be a week where you go something different for your VC because there's some good options on the Sunday. I just think Giants, bad matchup. I'd prefer to use my VC on someone that's got a better matchup. Same with Sarong as well. Definitely not touching Sarong. Sinclair against West Coast hasn't really done anything since that 130 against Richmond. Could that mean he's going to go well against West Coast this week? I just think there are better options that are more consistent, and especially in this West Coast game, I think there are better options. But you could do worse than a Sinclair captain. No for Hewitt against Sydney. Anderson, not for me against Hawthorn. Tough matchup up in Darwin. It just hasn't been getting it done. So not for me. Jack Steele is not an awful option, but I just think Steele doesn't quite get it done against the easier teams. He actually does better against the harder teams. Like in these easier matchups, he sort of just coasts along, and he'll probably get his 95 to 105, but not a captain for me this week. I could be wrong, but yeah, I think they're better options. Nick Martin, I like as a VC. Probably someone outside the top 10 I don't have that I really actually like as a VC. So if you want to go there, I don't mind him. And that is probably it for those players in terms of the top 10. So in terms of my plans this week, with the news of TDK being out, I'm bringing in Rowan Marshall this week. So I'll be going Tristan Cherry into Rowan Marshall as my captain and vice captain. Cherry plays the first game on Sunday, and then into Marshall, final game of the round. And I'll have a St Kilda player, I would imagine, as a red dot. If not, might have to adjust. But at this stage, I should have a red dot in that final game, so I'll be able to do that. So just, check your red dots and everything like that to make sure you guys can loop in. A lot of people have probably got a red dot or two. You at least have probably maybe a Buslinger if he doesn't come in, or someone like that on the Saturday night. So you should be able to loop this week with fair degree of confidence. So, but yeah, let me know in the comments below, guys, who you're going with your captain and vice captain for round 10. And any questions you guys have, put them in the comments and I'll try and get to them when I can. But if you do want a guaranteed answer, head over to patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. You get a guaranteed answer there through either the exclusive Patreon Q&As that I do weekly, record them Wednesday nights. You got, obviously, I answer all the DMs there on Patreon because I just can't get to every DM on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and then all the comments on YouTube. And then you get the Ask Me on Q service for free as a Patreon member there, and you get the personalised audio response for a full team review. Every Patreon member gets a team review once per week. So I've been doing a few of those weekly for some of the Patreon members. So if you want to get involved in that, plus exclusive content, become Patreon member today by clicking link in the description or heading to patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. But yeah, make sure you guys smash a like on the video. Let's try and get 100 on this video. That'd be fantastic. And subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. I think we're less than 180 away now from 4K, which was our big goal at the start of the year. So if you can help us reach that goal before the end of the season, then subscribe to our channel. We've got daily content on the channel, or mostly most days anyway. So obviously, if I miss a watch long or two, it might not be daily, but we at least do it 5 days a week. So yeah, make sure you guys subscribe and get involved in all the action. And I'll be back for a watch long tonight for the Gold Coast and Hawthorn game. Not huge fantasy relevant game, but watching a few players there to maybe bring them in over the next few weeks because they are cheap options. But can answer all your questions there as well. I'll be out live for 3 hours or however long the game goes for. So if you want to tune into that watch song tonight, then yeah, I'll be starting that one tonight. So the game starts for me. What time does that start there? That is starting at 7:30 Eastern, so I'll be live probably 7:15 around there. So 7:15, 5:15 per time. I'll be doing the watch long tonight. But if you're not going to tune to that, we'll be back tomorrow for our pre-lockout chat, 6 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. per time, and another watch long straight after that, pretty much tomorrow night for Sydney and Carlton. So anyway, catch heap of you legends in the watch long. If not, I'll catch you guys tomorrow night for the pre-lockout chat. So thanks everyone. Catch you then. See ya.